We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we live and work on, the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and recognise their continuing connection to the land and waterways. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and extend this to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Good morning everyone, my name is Daniel Hardy and I welcome you this morning to our Remembrance Day service here at Mount Clear College. At the moment we currently have staff and students attending and representing the college at Remembrance Day ceremonies around the Ballarat region. It is also important that we as a college take the time to pause and remember the great sacrifice that was made by so many men and women in past years, as well as those that are still on active service representing our country today. The First World War was in its time the most destructive conflict yet experienced by humanity. When it began in August 1914, few imagined the course that it would take or foresee its terrible toll. From a population of just under 5 million, 400,000 Australians enlisted to answer the call for their country at its greatest time of need. For most, this meant being sent overseas to Gallipoli, to the Middle East, or to the Western Front in the fields of France and Belgium. More than 60,000 Australians lost their lives, a devastating toll for a small country. Around the world, some 10 million personnel died in what was called the Great War. Families, communities everywhere were affected by this enormous loss. The fighting stopped when an armistice between the Allied powers and Germany came into effect at 11 o'clock on the morning of the 11th of November in 1918. A truce was signed in a railway carriage in a small country town in France. In 2015, I was exceptionally lucky to be able to travel with a group of staff and students from the college and visit the exact location in which this armistice was signed. In Britain and the countries of its empire, the day's anniversary became known as Armistice Day. In 1919, and in every year since, at 11 a.m. on the 11th of November, people have paused to remember those that paid the greatest sacrifice. So great had been the loss of life, so devastating had been the destruction. The people hoped, even imagined, that the Great War would be the last war, the war to end all wars. However, sadly, this was not the case to be. 2 decades later, the world again was plunged into a second global conflict. No longer could Armistice Day remain a day only to remember the dead of the First World War. After the Second World War, November 11 became known as Remembrance Day. The day's sombre associations have, however, never changed. Today we pause and reflect to remember not only the Australians that served in the World Wars, but also those that served their country in Korea, Malaya, Borneo, Vietnam, and most recently in conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan. Every year, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, we pause to reflect and remember the great price that so many have paid so that we may enjoy the lives and freedoms that we live today. The Ode, as it is commonly known, is taken from a poem written by the English poet Lawrence Binyon. It has been recited at commemorative services since 1919. In military tradition, the last post is a bugle call that signifies the end of the day's activities. It is also sounded at military funerals to indicate that a soldier has gone to their final resting place. Following the Ode and the last post, we will observe a minute's silence, followed by the rouse. The rouse is a short bugle call that is also used to call soldiers to their duty. If you are not already doing so, and if you are able, can you all please stand? The Ode is as follows. They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them, lest we forget. Thank you all for paying your respects during today's ceremony.